Hey, what up, YouTube and G Team? It is Major G. I just literally finished watching Yogi Bear, and I felt like I had to do a little review on it. This is a movie I've been wanting to watch basically ever since it came out in cinemas. Because I grew up watching a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff. Even before it was on, I think it was before it was on Cartoon Network. I'd been watching Yogi Bear and Hanna-Barbera stuff. Um, and I was always a fan of of Yogi. So, uh, and then when I heard that they were making a live action adaptation of this, I was like, okay, I can see that. I can see that because Yogi Bear, unlike some of the other live action cartoon adaptations, um, I feel like it is something that could be done logistically while keeping the same feeling of the old cartoons. Um, and I guess it was because I missed it or whatever. Because I missed seeing it originally. I remember hearing a lot of bad reviews on it, and I was like, I wonder how you can review this poorly. Um, and so I just finished watching it, and I gotta say I loved it. Now here's the thing: you have to go into this knowing a few things. One thing is that if you're going into a live action adaptation of a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, but especially a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, um, you're not going to be expecting some. You got to realize you're not going to be expecting Oscar performances. It's not going to be, you know, you're not going to be seeing the full range of Tom Cavanaugh and Anna Faris and feeling the dramatic, uh, uh, their full dramatic interpretation of what it feels like to have a national, or well, it wasn't a national park, but this park taken from them. So I mean, you got to realize, you got to go into, first off, you got to go into that realizing that it's not going to be it's not going to be Leonardo DiCaprio. Uh, it's not going to be DiCaprio or Meryl Streep doing like the trauma. It's not going to be that. Secondly, this is based on Yogi Bear. The entire premise of Yogi Bear cartoons is, hey boo boo, well, let's go do some picnic baskets from these park visitors. Hey, I'm smarter than the average bear. And let's not let Ranger Smith catch up with us. Like, that's basically the premise of Yogi Bear, which is he's going out stealing picnic baskets and he gets in trouble. So it's so in that sense, it was awesome because it's basically for two, because the basic plot is that this city mayor wants to close down the park. I mean, the story is so trite and overdone, but it works. It works. The story and stuff that happens throughout it works for the subject matter, which is a Yogi Bear live action version of a cartoon. So it's not supposed to be this huge, complicated thing. Um, and yeah, once you go into it like that, it's actually a pretty freaking great movie. And this movie was essentially made for two people. It was made for two types of people. It was made for kids, and it was made for adults who are Yogi Bear fans. That's basically it. So, or cartoon fans, but mostly Yogi Bear fans. So, um, I mean, if you go into it realizing that, you're gonna have a great time watching this movie. Um, and I mean, I 100% feel that way. Um, But yeah, it was a great movie, but you have to realize this is not going to be some kind of Oscar performance. And one of the reasons I feel like this is I actually feel like it's on some of the top end of the live action cartoons adaptations. And I'm not going with anime because anime has a full range of everything. So I mean, that's a whole different set. you can get all the drama and everything out of an anime adaptation. But I mean, like, just straight up cartoon, like goofy cartoon, and an adaptation off of that. And I feel like this is one of the stronger adaptations, stronger live action adaptations of a cartoon. Um, Mostly because of the once again, the subject matter, how it works in the real world. Because basically, in Yogi Bear cartoons, the only thing that's unusual is the fact that Yogi and Boo Boo talk, and they speak, and they steal picnic baskets, um, and and as far as we know, they're the only bears that do this. So, um, I think there were a couple of episodes where Yogi would come across other bears, and they were just regular bears. Um, so so yeah, I mean, Yogi does fit it. I mean, like, it really does pretty much fit well as as a live action adaptation. And I'm kind of surprised it got lower reviews than the Alvin and the Chipmunks ones, because Alvin and the Chipmunks was actually a little weirder. Because when you have in the cartoon show, they never really explain it, but in the cartoon show, they're full size kids. In the movies, obviously, if you've seen the movies, you know that they're chipmunk size animals. So it's a little weirder than the show. Like, it makes sense as chipmunks, but as for the stuff that they're doing, it's kind of weird. Um, but with Yogi, it makes sense. So, because it kind of fits more into the whole premise of the real world. And then you still have some of those cartoon physics, such as somehow Yogi and Boo Boo are able to ride this giant this glider that's basically made out of fishing poles and bike parts. Um, and they even say it, bears are supposed to be 1,800 pounds, and Yogi's supposed to be 1,800 pounds, but you know, cartoon physics. Like, he's able to ride in cars without messing anything up, or ride in a shopping cart without breaking it. So cartoon physics, it makes sense. It's that whole cartoon physics thing, and it works for this movie. It really does. It works for this movie as long as you don't think about it, you know. And just like the cartoon, he was able to do some of this stuff, but you can't think about it too much. Cartoon physics. And I think that was one of the reasons why I had trouble watching the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, is because I kept getting thrown back. Because, yeah, they were talking chipmunks, but they were also chipmunk-sized chipmunks, as opposed to in the cartoon show, the Alvin and the Chipmunks cartoon show, they were full-size people. They were like 4 foot tall people, who just happened to be chipmunks. That includes them and the Chipettes. And I think they established that their mother was also like 4.5, 5 feet tall. Because in the show, they meet their mother briefly. And so, compared to the movie, it's a little weird. When you compare the show and the movie, it's a little weird. Inspector Gadget kind of made sense, because, you know, they were able to, though the show and the movie had many elements of the same thing, and they didn't. I don't know. I hope you guys know where I'm going with this. I have trouble putting my explaining what I mean with things. But yeah, basically, Yogi works as a live action. So I liked the movie. I wish there had been a sequel. The voice acting was great. The animation was pretty good. And Tom Cavanaugh was great as Ranger Smith. I mean, of course, there were logistics issues, like such as Jellystone is supposed to be a national park. They're wearing the national park badge. I don't think it said national park on it, because it looks because it had the same symbol and everything, but when I was trying to read the words, they were fuzzier. Um, but if Jellystone's supposed to be a national park, an, so it's technically a city can't shut down a national park because it's totally different levels of government. Um, and then for a park that size, they established that the park was actually kind of big. Like it was almost the size of the entire county. Um, and so you can't just have two rangers monitoring that entire park. um, which is okay though, because in the cartoon show, I think Ranger Smith, for whatever reason, was like the only ranger in the park. But yeah, like actually living in a national park, I will tell you the reality is there's hundreds of rangers here. Hundreds. I would say the majority of the employees who are here are probably rangers. Oh, no, they're not. They're not rangers. But there are at least a few hundred rangers that work in the national park, in this particular national park, and this one is smaller than Yellowstone, which is what Jellystone is based on. So that was a little jarring as someone who lives in a national park. I thought that was a little like, but I mean, it's you could once again you can take that's something you can kind of take yourself outside of. You know, it's you don't have to really think about that. It's just really kind of funny, but it's not something you like that's brought to mind unless it is a reality for you, and it is a reality for me, which was it was kind of funny to be that they were the only two park rangers in the entire park. um, so yeah, have you guys ever seen Yogi Bear before? Are you familiar with the cartoons? um, Let me know if you agree with me in the comments, but I'm not changing what I feel about it, or how I feel about this movie, because I actually liked it. Once again, I liked the movie. I thought it was great, as long as you compartmentalize it to the fact that it is a live action adaptation of a very, very goofy cartoon show. So it's going to be for kids, and it's in some elements aren't, because they're heavily simplified, aren't really going to make sense if you think about it heavily. So yeah, until next time, you guys, once again, be excellent to one another and party on, dudes.
Bring him into the universe. Just have him there.
You know what? Honestly, I feel like that would actually make their world building a lot simpler, because then they could kind of do like a James Bond with it, if you know what I mean. So like, instead of having to redo his origin, let's say for example, we had the Sam Raimi one. Sam Raimi, we do the origin,